Unlike the Amico, the Evercade exists and it is thriving. Welcome back to Bog Panda. I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything. Joining me as always.
I'm thriving too, and I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. What's also thriving is Bog Panda, and it'll thrive more if you subscribe. So please consider subscribing. Like a few videos, that'll even kick the Thrive-O-meter way up to do that.
Thriving me, that's a shirt.
The Thrive-O-meter is totally a shirt. That one we could do. Speaking of shirts, go to our merch store. There's lots of cool shirts, including Thrive-O-meter, probably before this video comes out. I'll get it up there. I'll try and do that. And after all that work, you probably want to relax, listen to a podcast, but you don't have a lot of time. You really wish there was like the world's shortest podcast. There is. It's Hard No, and it's on the Bog Panda YouTube channel. So check it out.
Well, that was an excellent introduction, Kelly, but something even more excellent. Not that you didn't do an incredible job, but we're fans of the Evercade here. It's something that I was actually initially resistant to because I was like, I hope this isn't just a flash in the pan thing and some people will buy it and it'll just disappear. But once I saw that it was, really getting support, I made the jump, bought an Evercade, love it. It's a great unit. There's two more iterations of it that are out now. The VS or Versus, which is the console version of it that you plug into the TV, holds two cartridges. And then the newest edition, which allows you to rotate the screen to play vertical games. The newest edition, they're handheld. With the exception of the Capcom collection, these are also all on cartridges, physical media. It's for collectors. I mean, it's the most. I mean, if you really want to talk about like an accurate retro gaming experience, putting cartridges into a physical handheld or a console you're hooking into your TV, it doesn't get more, legitimate than that. And the quality of everything is excellent. The cartridges themselves, the boxes, the instruction books, the artwork on everything is excellent. It's just really great. They put out really high quality products. They have a great selection of games. It's going to be, what is it? Is it 450 or 500 games that they're going to hit by the end of this year?
I think it's 450.
400. So 450 games will have been released for this, over 50 different cartridge collections. And that's not counting, the made so many people mad free Capcom collection that they put out because it didn't come with a physical cartridge. But they did print out an instruction book, so you did get a book for the collectors out there with it. But they made tons of new cartridge announcements, taking us through basically the rest of the year. And they're kind of amazing. Like I don't think I've ever been this excited about Evercade as I am right now. And I already am on board with it. So Kelly, I know, has been on the fence for this. I really want to talk about these cartridges. And at the end, I have to know if this is what's going to finally push you over.
Fair enough. We'll save that. So you'll need to watch to the complete end of the video, getting us all of that watch time.
Get that watch time.
That'll be the big reveal of where I'm at regarding Evercade. But at the end, so hang in there.
Well, I'm just gonna go to the big guns. There's a new Pico collection and things like that, and everything looks awesome. All of these collections look awesome, but there's two that I think Kelly and I are going to be on the same page about being the ones we're most excited about. I'd be surprised if we're not on the same page with these. The first is a Delphine collection of their Amiga titles, which includes Another World and Flashback on the same, not Shaq Fu, just to get the one negative complaint. Yep. Don't have the full trilogy of Another World, Flashback, Shaq Fu. But you do get a few other games which are not Shaq Fu, but Another World and Flashback on my Evercade, this is incredibly exciting for me.
Yeah, Future Wars is one of the other ones that are there, but obviously the first two are the big ticket items, which is awesome to see. And we've talked in the past about, more and more Amiga games coming out on the Evercade, which is a big win and fun to see. So definitely there's a ton of stuff. The Pico collection looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're including a link to the video. It's interesting. I like what they're doing is they're doing kind of a news release, at least for the next. They're going to do another one, I think, next month. and they kind of go through each of the releases at a high level, and then they go a little bit deeper dive for each of them. The editing construct and some of the flow, I think there's opportunities for improvement, but in terms of the information, I think it's great. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, the videos aren't the best, and I think part of it is they're including like the game trailer. So the next collection we're going to be talking about, I think we're on the same page of where that's going. That had a trailer that got released around the same time as just a standalone trailer. The editing between, the more polished trailers and then them just talking about it, not great. But for me personally, I was so excited by what's coming out and getting all the details on that it didn't really detract any of my excitement.
Okay, so
So
let's see if we're on
jumping
the same
into it,
page. What's that next? What's the next cartridge?
I'm going to assume that we're talking about Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Yes, you're 100% correct.
Not just a Duke Nukem collection, 2 volumes of Duke Nukem games. This is pretty exciting. So just when before I saw this video that you sent me, I saw the standalone Duke Nukem trailer. I was excited about that. Obviously, it's cool to see the deeper dive, to see all the games that are going to be included on this, and some hardware that goes along with it as well. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the games first. So I think I mean, obviously, I know the answer to this already, but just to make it clear for everybody, are you a Duke Nukem guy, Kelly?
Yeah, 100%. Big fan.
Yeah, so am I. What was your introduction to? Were you Duke Nukem 3D guy, or did you start with 1 and 2?
Did not start with 1 and 2. Started with Duke Nukem 3D. Loved it. Was kind of still doing a lot of heavy Doom playing at that time as well. The only thing I loved Duke Nukem, just top to bottom as a game. It also offered level editing capabilities, which were, or at least this guy, a lot harder than when I would go into my Doom editor and try and do some things. But beyond that one little nit, it was just magic all the way around. I just loved Duke Nukem 3D. I I actually enjoy Duke Nukem Forever as well. I know there's a kind of mixed reviews on that overall. I think a lot of that comes to the ridiculously large amount of anticipation that was going in for the release of it. Uh, so I've not done a lot of 1 and 2 because they're more platformers, and I kind of liked my Duke in 3D. So,
Yeah, Duke. So Duke, for anybody who doesn't know, Duke Nukem took the same path. Obviously, first-person shooters were extremely successful at that time. You had Wolfenstein 3D and then Doom, which really elevated. So even though it only came a year or so after Wolfenstein 3D, was so much more advanced than that. And Doom really just kicked open the doors for a flood of first-person shooter games. So Duke Nukem, though, really followed the same path that Wolfenstein did. So Wolfenstein started as a PC. The 3D is just like with a lot of 80s movies that did this. Wolfenstein 3D is the third Wolfenstein game. There was Castle Wolfenstein, and it's either Escape or Return to Castle Wolfenstein, something like that. Castle Wolfenstein, which were stealth games, which had very Atari 2600-ish graphics. You were a blocky thing on the screen and you had to stealthily sneak around past other blocky things on the screen. They weren't the best games. They were fun. I remember playing them as a kid. I do remember seeing those, but really what sold me on Wolfenstein was Wolfenstein 3D. Like that's really where everything clicked for me with that. And I to this day absolutely love that game. When Doom came out after that, I played Doom today, 30 years after that game came out. I was playing the original Doom today. So Duke Nukem, I remembered. So I bought joysticks for our Gateway, which I'm hoping for the Gateway Mini that Kelly and I pitched. I bought joysticks for my Gateway, and one came with Commander Keen, which actually exists in the same universe as Wolfenstein and Doom, and one came with one of the Duke Nukem games as like a free, like the 3x5 like floppy disk games to test out your new joystick. So I had played the original Duke Nukem games. Didn't love them. I'm not a huge platformer guy. They were fun, but it's a limited amount of fun, especially when you have games like Doom to play. I wasn't spending a whole lot of time on that. But when Duke Nukem 3D came out, I absolutely loved it. It came out at the perfect time for me too, because I was so into first person shooters. And then with the kind of edgier humor that it had, I was the perfect age to think that this was brilliant. The greatest thing ever made. So it really just kind of it checked every box for me at that time. And I still play that game a lot today too. Obviously it was ported to everything just like Doom was. There's a ton of spin-offs, a few of which are included on this collection. Those are mostly made for consoles. The spin-off games like Duke Nukem Advance and things like that, which is included on this collection. The spin-offs are okay. They're mostly third person, moving away from the first person shooter side of it. I never really understood why they did that. I have to assume it's just because it was a little bit easier for it to run on the hardware at the time for the consoles than recreating the first person shooter. But Tech Toy, which we've talked about before, and I think this is worth noting, and it would have been cool to see this. Hopefully there's a volume 3 and we can see this on there. Tech Toy, very, very long after the normal life of the Sega Genesis had ended, they kept it going in Brazil, and they made Duke Nukem 3D for Sega Genesis, and it is missing 98% of the game. But what is there, and the fact that it's running on a Sega Genesis with no extra chips or anything like that, like they're not cheating this. This is just running regularly on hardware. It is really impressive that they're able to bring that over. So I am a big fan of it. I actually probably, though, played most of my Duke Nukem 3D play was on the PlayStation version, the
Mm-hmm.
Total Meltdown edition of it, which has Duke Nukem 3D as well as another campaign. So it's the longest version of the game. The graphics take a big hit, though, compared to the PC version. It's very pixelated and choppy in parts. But it has the most levels, and it has all the content from the PC version, which none of the other ports do. Most of the ports are censored and the levels are shortened. So the PlayStation version gives you the entire campaign plus a whole other episode.
Yeah, and then Forever, I think Forever was PlayStation 3, at least 2, but I think it was PlayStation 3.
I think it was
Um,
3, yeah, by the time it was released.
it was again visually, yeah, pretty awesome experience. I know, and like I said, I like it. There's just something still so magical about Duke Nukem 3D that was just kind of right to your point earlier. Just kind of like right time, right place.
Yeah.
Uh, was edgy enough that like, oh, this is kind of cool. Introducing a lot of things there. You got some Bruce Campbell quotes, so you're gonna win me over there. So it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of these games. And what's cool is not only does this include Duke Nukem 3D, so it'd be nice to have a new port of that and something we could play, on the VS hooked up to the TV or your regular Evercade or any newer editions that might be coming out in the future. But it also includes 1 and 2, but remastered versions of them with updated graphics. And right off the bat, they let you know cleaner scrolling as well. A lot of those early PC side-scrolling games don't scroll that great. It's kind of choppy as you move along, which is why some of them, like if you play Castlevania on Commodore 64, which is a really good version of Castlevania, it actually just flips the screen to another screen. It doesn't scroll with you as you go. And that's because it looks awful in some of those games when they were trying to scroll. And I do remember that about the original games, that kind of choppy scrolling. So I'm very curious to revisit those 2 games in particular, because it's been so long since I played them and they weren't great. So I'm hoping these upgrades to them make them, something that'll work its way into the rotation for me.
Yeah, and the nice part on the kind of the remastered ones is they make the original ones, OG ones, available too, so you can remind yourself how much the experience has been improved if you
In
need to. So that's
case you
pretty
need
cool.
to
Yeah,
see that.
Yeah, but yeah, so I mean, I think they're hitting it out of the park. Lots of really good content. They've got a upcoming, they still have two more cartridges announced for 2023.
Mhm.
Um, they've been good about, I mean, they've been all over the place in terms of whether it's Capcom, the Pico stuff, now the Duke Nukem stuff, but they also the homebrew market has not been overlooked by Evercade as well, and they're going to have an indie cartridge of some sort, which is going to be pretty sweet too. So they uh they continue to give you reasons to want to buy one of these.
And if you haven't bought one yet and you are in the market for the VS, there's going to be a Duke Nukem branded version of that coming, which you can pre-order the Atomic edition of, which is Duke Nukem themed. It looks really cool, and it comes with both Duke Nukem volumes.
Which, you know, I was teetering through. I continue to see, because I've been leaning more and more towards the EXP, just because I really like the idea of being able to kind of rotate, play it horizontally. The screen size is not as large as the Nintendo Switch screen size. Um, which I was like, I don't know, because I don't know how much smaller I want to go for that investment. So that was starting me. So I've been bouncing back and forth between. I'm definitely getting an Evercade at some point, but it's like I just was struggling to decide between EXP or the Versus, because the Versus, they've got to adjust my rack of retro gaming consoles. Find a place for the Amiga 2600 or the Atari 2600 to have a different spot on it. And I was like, oh boy, it's another one of those that's going to take up a lot more space. But then you brand the thing Duke Nukem and it becomes, a centerpiece, and you don't want to have it tucked away. You want to so that highly interested in that. Probably going to have to pull a trigger on that.
Yeah, the Duke Nukem one looks really good. That's yeah. I was leaning towards the XP when I'm ready to upgrade my Evercade, but man, that Duke Nukem one.
Super
And what was
tempting.
that? Do you remember what the price point on it was?
I don't, but I can with my mind place them on the screen right now. So,
I
so that's what they are.
think it was around like 120, but that was euros.
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, I'm not sure what that equates to. Probably closer to 200
Yeah, it sounds
US
about right.
dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, but my mental telepathy did that
it's
conversion for us.
all right there. I
All
can see
there.
it.
So,
But I mean, even that, like, that's not unreasonable for the Duke Nukem branded system and both Duke Nukem cartridges.
yeah, yeah, because the Empire, their cartridges are pretty affordable. They come in typically around $20 a pop.
Yeah.
That's fantastic
And
for
you get
what you
multiple
get.
games on there too.
Yeah. So if you kind of stay at that price point, if it is at 200 or the amount we showed earlier, um, it comes down pretty darned affordable.
And what I like about the VS too, and the thing that always has me thinking about maybe going in that direction is there's two cartridge slots. So it's not like just because even though they are, multiple games on there, it's not like you're getting up and down constantly changing out cartridges. You can load up two cartridges and have a very full game experience, but still have that kind of retro feel of putting the cartridge in and having the actual physical console there and everything. And I mean, I would definitely, it's the Duke Nukem branded system, so you have to have both Duke Nukem cartridges in, obviously.
Yeah, that's how it's most appropriately displayed.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking too. I was like, this will look amazing in my game.
Yeah, that'll be
When people are
that
like,
one
what's
might be
that?
easy
Oh,
to
my Duke Nukem console.
yeah. Oh yeah, let's just be in the background of every photo and all that kind of stuff. Cool. Excellent. So we remain ever more a Evercade fanboys here.
So what do you think? Do you think you're going to be pulling the trigger on some version of the Evercade soon?
Yeah, I think the Duke Nukem one's got me. I just I think is because largely the EXP, while I will get would get some additional gaming functionality. It's another Switch to a large degree. I mean, there is some other features to it, but a lot of the games that I can get for the Evercade, I can get for the Switch. And so it feels much more like a duplication than the other one. Of course, there is still the benefit of it being portable. So that's what I kind of keep going back and forth on. But
it's not Duke Nukem branded though.
Yeah, the Duke Nukem stuff is pretty compelling. So
Yeah,
you're a fan. It's that's always been a favorite. So well played, Evercade. Well played.
you knew what you were doing.
Bog Panda.